Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? We do have breaking news, honest to goodness true story. Breaking news courtesy of Tom Pelissero. As he is the first to report, the Texans are sending veteran running back Mark Ingram to the Saints. Pelissero and Ian Rappaport, the first to report it, a reunion in New Orleans where Ingram started his career. The terms of this trade have not yet been disclosed. If you are not familiar, of course, Mark Ingram and the Saints could not agree on a contract extension to keep, or a free agent deal to keep Mark Ingram in New Orleans after the 2018 season. So in January of 2019, Mark Ingram agreed to terms with the Baltimore Ravens on a 3-year, $15 million deal. The interesting thing about the deal at the time is the difference between what Baltimore gave Mark Ingram and what the Saints were offering was negligible. If I remember correctly, and I don't have the Saints offer right in front of me, the difference was something to the tune of a few $100,000 per year over the course of the contract. Mark Ingram fit perfectly with as a complement to Alvin Kamara. The Saints drafted him. He wanted to stay in New Orleans, but he had a number, or I should say actually the Saints had a number they wouldn't go over, so Mark Ingram decided to go test the market. Well, the Saints then went and signed Latavius Murray.
Present.
And Mark Ingram signed in Baltimore for effectively the same number he would have gotten in New Orleans. If those two sides had known how close they were, Mark Ingram probably would have never left. But he did leave, and he spent the last couple of years in Baltimore, and then Baltimore released him because he just wasn't performing. He signed with the Texans, and now the Texans are sending Mark Ingram back to the New Orleans Saints. Per Tom Pelissero, he notes details are being finalized, but the trade expected to involve late-round future picks, plural. Pelissero notes a bargain addition for the Saints, who get buddies Ingram and Alvin Kamara together again. Okay, so I'm a little torn on this. There are a lot of Saints fans who have 22 jerseys that are pumped, or 28 jerseys who are pumped, because they get to dust those things off and bring them back. And yes, absolutely, there is no doubting that Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara were great complements to one another. That 2018 season, when the Saints went to the NFC Championship game, of course, Mark Ingram had the suspension at the start of that season, played in 12 games, but he averaged nearly 5 yards a carry. But the other thing that is absolutely fundamentally true about Mark Ingram is his productivity was decreasing in New Orleans, which is why the Saints had a hard and fast number they were sticking to, and they were not willing to go over. Mark Ingram now is 3 years removed from that and has been now let go by both the Ravens and the Texans, who are willing to part ways with him. If you look at Ingram's time in New Orleans, it got off to a rough start. And Ingram was one of those players who, of course, the expectation was raised because the Saints traded back into round one to select Mark Ingram back in the 2011 draft. And of course, because of what they gave up to get him, the expectations were higher. And we saw Ingram play just 10 games in his rookie year, and he ran for only 474 yards. He was not very good in year two either, as he had just 600 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. By 2013, when he started just 3 games and played in 11, it was evident that it just wasn't working with Mark Ingram in New Orleans. You'll recall he had fumbling issues early in his time. And then he started to hit his stride in 2016. And he had his first 1,000-yard season, 1,043 yards, played in all 16 games, and averaged 5.1 yards per carry. That was a career high. In 2016, the 5.1 yards per carry was a career high. The next year in 2017, had his career high in rushing yards, 1,124 yards, played all 16 games, and he averaged 4.9 yards per carry. And then in 2018, as we mentioned, he missed 4 games that year with the suspension. By that point, Kamara was part of the roster, and you saw another stair step down to 4.7 yards per carry. So in those years, we saw Ingram go from 5.1 to 4.9 to 4.7 in consecutive years, and that's when the Saints were like, we see a trend, that his productivity is decreasing. Yes, he was a great compliment to Kamara, the way that they complement each other. Ingram could do the between the tackles dirty work, and Kamara was the more versatile chess piece, the Reggie Bush role, if you would, to the Deuce McAllister role. So the Saints paired them beautifully, but Sean Payton and Mike Detillier for years told us this, and he's so spot on. Sean Payton, a disciple of Bill Belichick, has always lived by the mantra that you'd rather get rid of a player a year too soon than a year too late. And sometimes it works out in your favor, and sometimes it doesn't. We always bring up Darren Sproles as the case in point, the evidence of a guy who had more left in the tank that they parted ways with too soon. Malcolm Jenkins is another one of those guys they parted ways with, and in hindsight, Sean Payton has acknowledged they should have found a way to keep Malcolm Jenkins for many reasons, not just play on the field, but also leadership in the locker room. Mark Ingram was they felt, a declining player. They were not willing to give him a bigger than the number that they did, and that was 3 years ago. And now you're looking at a player 3 years removed who has since been cast away by Baltimore and now cast away by the Houston Texans. I don't love it. There's part of me that understands it, okay? I understand that you need an option. You would have loved to have kept Latavius Murray, but
Murray, present.
The Saints went through cap issues this offseason, and they purged a lot of guys they would have liked to have kept. And Tony Jones Jr. looked like an amazing young option, the next in a long line of undrafted running backs that the Saints found because Sean Payton has an eye for it. And you know the list. If it was Pierre Thomas or Travaris Cadet or Kyrie Robinson, you know the list. There's been Chris Ivory. There's been so many of those guys who the Saints have found, and Tony Jones looked like the next one. Well, unfortunately, he got injured, and now the Saints have been going through this turnstile, this revolving door of could-be options at running back, and it's led them here to Mark Ingram. I don't know what Mark Ingram is going to be able to give this team. Maybe coming back to New Orleans re-energizes him. He's played in all 7 games for Houston, but he's averaging just 3.2 yards per carry. That is a career low for Mark Ingram. Since that first year in Baltimore, when he did have a bit of a resurgence playing in that offense with Lamar Jackson, when Lamar had his MVP season, and Mark Ingram averaged 5 yards a carry and had a 1,000-yard season. A year ago, played in just 11 games, rushed for fewer than 300 yards at 4.2 yards per carry, and then he's been even less effective this year. If the Saints were getting the Mark Ingram from 2018, I could probably be down with this. And again, what you give up to get the asset always matters. And as Tom Pelissero points out, you're giving up late-round picks, future late-round picks for Mark Ingram. I want to see that spelled out, what exactly it is. But I don't think you're getting a productive player anymore. I think you're getting a player that's 31 years old who was probably nearing the end of his career 3 years ago when you let him walk. He had one more good year in Baltimore, and that's been 2 years removed. Welcome Mark Ingram back. He's a great locker room guy. He knows this offense. He knows the system. He knows how to complement Kamara. I just wonder if physically there's anything left in the tank for Mark Ingram at this point. This, for me, while there's a feel-good for a lot of Saints fans, and I do understand that because he was a beloved player who was part of some really good Saints teams and didn't want to leave. And he loved New Orleans, and the fans embraced him back. And I understand the feel-good of this, and I also understand the Saints are lacking options. I mean, they went and tried to get kick the tires with Lamar Miller. I mean, I get how desperate they are right now. I mean, Devine Ozigbo was taking carries on Monday Night Football. I get the Saints need something. I'm gonna give you the sort of cautionary pump the brakes that if you think that this is going to be productive Mark Ingram from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you're not getting that guy. Maybe this is just let's fill the gap until Tony Jones comes back and is a more viable option at running back, complementing Alvin Kamara than what Mark Ingram can be. Look, I hope I'm dead wrong. I hope he drinks from the fountain of youth. Coming back to New Orleans re-energizes him, and he hits his stride in this offense. I just think you're looking at a player that is far on the backside of his career, and I don't know what realistically you get from this. But we're going to see, and we will if there is a benefit, and I will give you this. there is one very obvious benefit. Mark Ingram knows the Saints. He knows the personnel. He knows the offense. He knows the coaches. He knows the terminology. He can step in on Sunday against Tampa in the Dome and play competently and know exactly what his responsibilities are, where he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to do, because he's a veteran player and he knows this offense, intrinsically. So and maybe it's one of those deals where Sean Payton's looking for the short-term fix. Is it worth giving up future picks for a short-term fix? But the thing that is so abundantly clear with this Saints organization is they are perpetually in win-now mode. I say that all the time, but it's evident so many times. They are constantly looking ways to make themselves better today to win right now, as opposed to the Texans, which are casting aside everything, playing toward the future. Mark Ingram, he's a Saint again. We'll probably get a good look at him in a Saints uniform this weekend against Tampa. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.